So today we will be talking about the scalp in the following heading: introduction, extent, structure, nerve innervation, arterial supply, venous drainage, lymphatic drainage, and the clinical anatomy related to scalp. Now let's understand the extent of the scalp. Scalp, it extends here anteriorly over the supraorbital margin. Here supraorbital, anteriorly and posteriorly from the external occipital protuberance. Then posteriorly from the external occipital protuberance to the superior nuchal line, and on the either side over the supratemporal line. This all supratemporal line. So this blue dotted line demarcate the area of the scalp. This is all about the scalp. Now let's understand the structure of the scalp. Scalp is a loose connective tissue, covering the cranial vault. So this is the cranial vault, and which is a bony, and this is the soft tissue which is covering over this, all this soft tissue under this blue dotted line to the whole. This is the scalp. This all is the scalp. Now we study the structure of the scalp from superficial to deep. This is from superficial to deep. Now the structure scalp, SCALP, the structure scalp. Now you can see the structure in the scalp from superficial to deep. First, S stand for skin. This is the skin, and here you can see the skin with the hairs. These are the hair follicles embedded in this layer. So this skin, epidermis, then this one is the dermis. Now below to this is connective tissue, a subcutaneous layer. This is a subcutaneous layer. So this skin is the superficial most part of the scalp. Moving further deeper is the connective tissue or subcutaneous tissue here. Then epicranial aponeurosis. This is also known as Galea aponeurotica. This is also known as Galea aponeurotica. Then further deeper, loose connective tissue and pericranium. Deeper to this pericranium, we see here, this is the bone which has a two table, an outer table and the inner table. This is known as dipole in between the outer, and this is the dipole. You can see this is the dipole in between an outer and inner table of the skull. Further moving ahead, more deeper, we see the dura mater. This is the dura mater here. This is the dura mater. Now the dura mater has two layers. A layer which is attached to the cranial bone is endosteal layer. This is an endosteal layer, and the layer which is further more deeper is the meningeal layer of the dura mater. So the scalp, we see how it is arranged from superficial to deep. Now we will talk each structure in detail. First we see this is an skin. So this skin is having an hair follicle, with this having a sebaceous gland. Sebaceous gland. Sebaceous gland. As well as sweat gland. Sweat gland. So that's why the sebaceous cyst is common in the region of the scalp. We can see this arrangement of the scalp in another image. Here you can see this is a skin, epicranial epineurosis, loose connective tissue and periosteum. Now we are talking about the skin. Then further we have seen this skin, superficial fascia, which is a subcutaneous layer, and epicranial epineurosis. We put a positive sign here because these three, just in order to understand only, we are putting a positive symbol here because they are tightly adherent to each other. They are tightly adherent to each other. With this, below to this epicranial epineurosis is loose connective tissue. Here we put a negative sign because this is loosely adherent. This one is a loosely adherent with the pericranium, and another here again in the pericranium we put a negative sign. This is also loosely adherent with the loose connective tissue, and this pericranium also loosely adherent to the bone, which is a cranial vault, is loosely adherent. So again, in order to understand, I have put a minus sign. Now why I am emphasizing over the tightly adherent and loosely adherent? Because when you understand this, then you will able to understand its clinical anatomy in a easy manner. Now let's see what are the structure. Further we are talking about here, we were talking about the skin. this dense subcutaneous tissue, this dense subcutaneous tissue is just below to this. The blood vessels are present here. The blood vessels are present, and these blood vessels which are present, they are present over the Galea aponeurotica, this epicranial aponeurosis. So जो ये blood vessels है, they are running over the epicranial aponeurosis, and these blood vessels are firmly adherent to this layer. So as a result, so these blood vessels which are firmly adherent to this, so at the time of the injury, when there is injury happen, the blood vessels which are in this, they are unable to occlude properly of itself unless and until we apply a pressure, because the vessels are, the walls of the vessels are adherent to this fibrous network, now causing the profuse bleeding. So this superficial fascia, and you can see the superficial fascia in another image. Here you can see this, here this line and which I am making is for the subcutaneous tissue, and they having a locules, they are having a different locules, and these locules are filled of fats. These locules are filled of fats. These are, that's why it's in yellow color. Below to this we see this epicranial aponeurosis. This epicranial aponeurosis, now in another image here you can see how this pattern, skin, epicranial aponeurosis, loose connective tissue, then this one is the cranium, and this is the dura mater. This image is a cadaveric image. This epicranial aponeurosis include occipitofrontalis and various slip known as temporoparietalis. You can see, we will see how this epicranial aponeurosis, which is the continuation of occipitofrontalis, in another image. Then this loose connective tissue is here. The loose connective tissue is also known as the dangerous area of the scalp, as well as the safety wall. Now I am using both the word dangerous area of the scalp as well as safety wall. Why? We will talk later on over it. Now further below this loose connective tissue, this pericranium. Now pericranium is loosely attached, but it is firmly attached here only at the point of suture. This is the point of suture. Only at this point it's firmly attached. We see like this is the cadaveric image. So this first three layer, they where the positive sign I have mentioned, this together known as surgical layer. They are together known as surgical layer because during the surgery these are together known as surgical layer. Surgical layer because they are tightly adherent. So when during the surgery they remove as together of itself, means at the time of surgery when we remove the layers they are adherent with each other, so they comes together, so known as surgical layer. Now below to the surgical layer, this loosely adherent one, the fourth one, this fourth one I have said this is a dangerous area of the scalp because whenever there any injury happen, the hematoma, which is the collection of the blood taking place in this layer here, so this danger area having a short emissary vein, and here this short emissary vein communicate with the dural venous sinuses. They communicate with the dural venous sinuses. So if any pus formation is taking place here, this through the short emissary vein enter into the dural venous sinus. That's why the danger area of the scalp, and this area is also known as safety area because when hematoma is collecting, it generalized, it takes the shape of the, this is loosely arranged, so the blood when it is collected here, it collect in a generalized manner, not in the localized manner, so the pressure spread evenly over the all part. Whereas in the surgical layer, when any hematoma comes, it is localized, it is localized in a particular area because this region is tightly adherent to each other. So the reason this is more painful, this region is surgical area is more painful because any collection, it is localized, and when it is localized to that only particular part, it exert more pressure, so more pain. This pericranium is also loosely attached, so any collection in this region of pericranium, it is also generalized and spread evenly. Any hematoma, any collection, it spread evenly because loosely adherent, and it take the shape of the bone just below it, so it evenly, so any collection, it's evenly distributed because it is loosely adherent. Already we have seen this image, how the pattern of arrangement, the same we have talked regarding this in the earlier image, and we have seen this cadaveric image, this about the temple. This is temporal region. So in this temporal region is between the superficial temporal line and zygomatic arch. This area contains 6 layers: skin, superficial fascia, extension of epicranial epineurosis, temporal fascia, temporalis muscle, and pericranium. So this is all about the pattern of arrangement when we move. And the layer fifth, this layer fifth, temporalis muscle, is the additional that we see in this region when we compare with the scalp. Let's understand the Galea aponeurotica and bellies of occipitofrontalis muscle. Let's see first the occipitofrontalis muscle. This occipitofrontalis muscle, this is a frontalis muscle which is anteriorly. This is in anterior aspect, and this is an occipitalis. This is an occipitalis which is present posteriorly here. Posteriorly occipitalis. This occipitalis is firmly attached. This occipitalis is firmly attached over the superior nuchal lines. As these occipitalis both are present, one on the right side, one on the left side. So on the either side, these occipitalis, they are firmly attached over the superior nuchal line. They are firmly attached over the superior nuchal lines as they are coming from the lateral 2/3 of the superior nuchal lines. They are coming from the lateral 2/3 of the superior nuchal line, and they are distinctly present. Means इन दोनों के बीच में एक स्पेस होता है, ज़्यादा स्पेस होता है when you compare with the frontalis, because here you see the frontalis, they are more approximated with each other. They are more approximated with each other. So this occipitalis has a bony attachment, whereas this frontalis which is coming, the frontalis, it do not have the bony attachment, and it is coming, this is originating from the skin and subcutaneous layer below to the skin and moving like in this direction posteriorly. This is an frontalis moving like this in a posterior direction. Now this frontalis, here we see it is originating from the skin over the eyebrows, over this eyebrow, and subcutaneous layer below to this eyebrow, and the fibers, even the fibers of the frontalis, you can see they are merging with the orbicularis oculi. They are merging with the orbicularis oculi here, as well as the fibers here you see they are merging with here one another muscle is the procerus. Procerus is present here, so even the fibers are merging with the procerus as well as supercilii. Here this corrugator supercilii. So how this, you can see how the frontalis, the direction of the fibers of the frontalis as well as the direction of the fibers of occipitalis. Now the fibers later on, this frontalis and occipitalis, they changes to this Galea aponeurotica. This Galea aponeurotica. So this Galea aponeurotica is a sheet of fibrous tissue which connect occipitalis and frontalis muscle. This, and this sheet extend between these two occipital belly. Here you can see they are extending even behind these two occipitalis and to here external occipital protuberance. So on the posterior aspect, Galea aponeurotica is much wider. You can see this is much wider, Galea aponeurotica, whereas here this Galea aponeurotica is very much narrow because the frontalis are more approximated with each other compared to occipitalis. This Galea aponeurotica on each side, here you can see on each side, here on each side Galea aponeurotica, it extends as a thin membrane superficial to temporalis fascia. This temporalis fascia, it extends as a thin membrane over the temporalis fascia, and later it attaches with the zygomatic arch. It attaches with the zygomatic arch on each side. Now in this image you can see this anterior aspect. This anterior aspect, you can see here, see if any injuries happen, the blood which is collecting in the loose connective, connecting in the loose connective tissue, then you can see here this, on the posterior aspect, this is an frontalis. So the frontalis is not firmly attached with any bony landmark. It is directly continuation with the skin and subcutaneous area over here, the eyebrow. So if any injury happen, it has a posterior limit because occipitalis is firmly attached. As I have said earlier, the occipitalis is firmly attached at the point of superior nuchal line, whereas on the anterior aspect, frontalis has no any bony attachment. So any collection of the blood on the anterior aspect, it travel below to this frontalis and enter into the orbital septum. Here you can see in the orbital septum and causing the black eye. Now we talk about the nerve innervation. So there are total 10 nerves supply innervate the scalp on each side, 5 on each side, 10 on each side, the 10 on each side. So 10 on each side. So total, when you add 10 plus 10, 20, both sides 20. Now out of this 10, 5 which are anterior, or you can say front of the auricle, and 5 behind the auricle. And of this 5, 4 are sensory and one is motor. This one is the motor, one is motor. So 5 plus 5, 10. 10 on each side. So of this 5 plus 5 जो 5 हैं, ये 5 जो आ रही हैं, 5 nerves हैं, ये 5 nerves they are in front of the pinna. This is the pinna, and 5 nerves they are innervating in front of the pinna, and 5 nerves are innervating behind the pinna. They are behind the pinna. So the nerve which are innervating in front of the pinna, supratrochlear nerve, supraorbital nerve. Just you can see how they are running, how they are innervating. Zygomaticotemporal nerve, temporal branch of facial nerve, and auriculotemporal nerve. Out of these 5, one is motor. So this temporal branch is the motor, and all these 4 are sensory in nature. So temporal branch is motor in nature, and this temporal branch is coming from the facial nerve. This temporal branch is coming from the facial nerve, whereas these two, supratrochlear, supraorbital, zygomaticotemporal and auriculotemporal, they are coming from the trigeminal nerve. And on the posterior aspect of the pinna, that is behind the pinna, posterior division of great auricular nerve, posterior auricular nerve, lesser occipital nerve, greater occipital nerve, and third occipital nerve. Of these 5, one is motor. So posterior auricular, this is motor in nature, whereas others are sensory in nature. This posterior, which is motor in nature, this is coming from the facial nerve. So this about the nerve innervation. Now we will talk about the arterial supply. This is about the nerve. Now we will talk about the arterial supply. So here in the arterial, there are 5. The 5 different arteries which are present in the scalp. Of these 5, 3 are present in front of the pinna. These 3 are present in front of the pinna, whereas 2, these are present, these 2, those who are present in front of the pinnas are supratrochlear artery, supraorbital artery, superficial temporal artery. They are present in front of pinna, whereas in the behind the pinna is posterior auricular artery and occipital artery. So these two, which are these two, supratrochlear and supraorbital artery, they are the branch of internal carotid artery. These are the branch of supratrochlear artery and supraorbital artery are the branch of internal carotid artery. These two are the branch of internal carotid artery, whereas superficial temporal artery, posterior auricular artery and occipital artery, they are the branch of external carotid artery. External carotid artery. Now we will talk about the venous drainage. The veins of the scalp accompany the artery, and so they have a similar name. Now we can see here superior and inferior. This is an ophthalmic vein. Here you can see supraorbital vein and supratrochlear vein. Both these veins are uniting here just lateral to the nose, at the root of the nose laterally. Here they are uniting and forming an angular vein. Now this angular vein is draining in the facial vein. This facial vein drain into internal jugular vein. The posterior division, here you can see the posterior division of retromandibular vein. This posterior division of retromandibular vein unite with the posterior auricular vein. See here, to form external jugular vein. Form this external jugular vein, which ultimately drain into subclavian vein. This is about the lymphatic drainage. Now the scalp lymphatic drainage, anterior part divided into two parts, anterior part and posterior part. So the anterior part of the in this region of the scalp, they are drained by pre-auricular node or parotid group. You can see parotid group here. You can see the parotid group here. So they are drained into preauricular node or parotid group, whereas the posterior part drained into posterior auricular node and occipital group. You can see this occipital group. Here. This is the occipital group, and here you can see this posterior auricular. You can see the posterior auricular here. Now we talk about the clinical anatomy. So in the clinical anatomy, now this wound of the scalp, इसकी healing, the scalp पे अगर कोई wound है, that it has a very much potential to heal, and the potential to heal very fast. Reason behind is that in the scalp there is a rich supply of blood. The arteries were very much anastomosed in this region, so the good blood supply, that's why the healing is very good in the scalp. Then regarding the cephalohematoma is the collection of the blood between the scalp and the skull, that bone. So the collection of the blood, and basically it's happened in the babies. So injury in this region, in the scalp, and the collection of the blood, that is just below in the region of the loose, connective tissue. See this loose connective tissue, जिसको मैंने पहले ही एक्सप्लेन किया कि ये जो स्कैल्प की लेयर में जो लूज कनेक्टिव टिश्यू है वो लूजली एडहेरेंट रहता है. तो और just below another layer, that एंड पेरिक्रेनियम। अभी जब पेरिक्रेनियम, जब इसमें ब्लड इकट्ठा होता है इनके बीच में, दैट कंडीशन इज नोन एज सिफेलोहेमेटोमा। डेंजर एरिया ऑफ द स्कैल्प, इसके बारे में हमने इस लेक्चर में पहले ही बात कर चुके हैं। ब्लैक आई, इसके बारे में भी इस लेक्चर में हम लोगों ने पहले ही बात कर लिया है। नाउ स्कैल्प इंसिजन, दिस इज ऑल्सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। सी द स्कैल्प इंसिजन, दिस is about the here, so this region is of the scalp, and see this is an extension, and this, say this region is an anterior aspect, and here is the posterior aspect, anterior posterior. So in the scalp incision we have to give this scalp incision according to the Langer's line. So the Langer's line is the tension line, over the scalp. Okay, so the incision has to be given in the direction of the Langer's line. This has to be given like this, in the direction of the Langer's line. And in this region, in the posterior aspect, in the occipital region, this has to be given like this, in the direction of Langer's line. See why we have to give, see in this direction, because of the Langer's line is the tension line. One more thing is this, here we have seen this is this pericranium, this Galeria aponeurotica, here Galeria aponeurotica, and the direction of this frontalis muscle is in this manner, whereas in occipitalis is in this direction. So if we give an incision, say suppose if we give incision here in this direction, say like if we are giving like in this direction, what will happen? The force in this direction and the force in this direction will lead to cause delay wound healing and large scar formation. But when we are giving an incision in the direction of the fibers, then definitely there will be a good healing and less scarring. This is all about the lecture. Thank you.